So, Andrew, why were you rooting for the New England Patriots unlike the entire country, which was rooting against us?
Because everybody else in the room was rooting for Seattle. And I thought it was really funny to go for the, except that I kept calling them, like I was trying to get into it. I'd go Boston Patriots. I didn't realize that they're not they're located in Boston, or actually close to Boston.
No.
Yeah.
But they're actually
really.
the New England Patriots. So I got that bit wrong, but everybody else was rooting for Seattle. I couldn't let it stand. I had to swing in.
We were definitely outnumbered, but whatever. I'm happy we got to the game. I'm genuinely shocked that happened. So I feel like we have a good future ahead of us.
I did a video recently for Reason.
It was so awesome. It was the best. Oh, man. Did you think that they were going to start Josh Dobbs in the second half because Drake May was so bad? Like, you just think you're going to draft another quarterback, or like, where are you thinking?
To be honest with you, when Chris Collinsworth said that this was the worst offensive performance in Super Bowl history, it was like the beginning of the second half. I went over to the snack table and just started mainlining sugar. And so I didn't watch much of the second half. I did see the touchdown and had hope for maybe 20 seconds, but like, I don't know, but the second half, it kind of felt a little bit over. So I wasn't watching all that closely. After Bad Bunny, amazing. I was on the cookie line. What can you do?
I made several bets. So without getting into too great of specifics, because the Seattle Seahawks were favored pretty heavily in the game, I wanted to bet them straight up, without the point spread, and to get good odds for it, I had to put together a parlay. So over the weekend, I had the San Antonio Spurs beating the Dallas Mavericks, which happened. And then MMA journeyman, Japanese fighter Kyojo Hajamoji in UFC Fight Night on Saturday, defeating his opponent, which also happened. So I got plus odds on Seattle. And then I won. I had an anytime touchdown or defensive or special teams touchdown. That cashed when Drake May immolated in the middle of the field because he held the ball too long because he's a bad quarterback. And then
Shut up.
He smited me because I also had Drake May over 37.5 rushing yards, and he got 37 rushing yards. I needed one more rushing
you know
yard
what's crazy?
from Drake May, and I would have won.
I did
talk
the
less
exact
shit.
same
Maybe
thing.
he'll do what you need.
I did the exact same thing. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I understand a parlay to be when leaders of opposing forces meet at a neutral location to discuss the conflict.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, where we get the word parlor from. Not necessarily from opposing leaders, but from people meeting to parlay, to chats. Where we get the word, there you go, listeners. You got a little bit of etymological history. What is a parlay in sports terminology? I don't imagine the coaches meet at a neutral location to discuss terms.
In sports betting, it means that you get better odds if you make a bet where three separate things need to happen, or two or three or more separate things need to happen. So instead of just saying that the Seattle Seahawks will win, that is a bet that comes with very low odds. You would have to pay for the privilege. You have to risk more and agree to win less on a more likely outcome by way of the odds makers. But if you tie it to two other events, even if they are favored to happen, therefore tripling your risk exposure, the odds makers say, okay, if these three favorable things happen and there's no upsets, then you will win more than if you were to bet all these favorites separately. So all these were favored to happen. The San Antonio Spurs were favored to beat the Dallas Mavericks. MMA journeyman Kyoji Hajamoji, literally nicknamed the Karate Kid. I'm not being racist. That's his actual nickname. And the Seattle Seahawks beating the Patriots. So that's what a parlay is. Have you ever seen the movie Uncut Gems?
Yeah. I saw that with Adam Sandler.
So that was a very pivotal movie in the world of sports betting, because the sports bets that he makes in that movie, which are in-game an in-game parlay. So the finale of the movie involves him watching an NBA game where he needs a bunch of insane stuff to all happen. Like the Celtics need to win the tip-off, and then this person needs to score this amount of money, and blah, 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 blah. That, at the time that movie was made, those bets weren't popular. Gamblers made fun of the movie because that was not a thing that actually happens in gambling. And then gambling sites were like, wait, people actually want to do this? Sure. You can make these insane bets that almost never come out. So they push people toward parlays because they fail more often. You have a higher upside, but they fail more often. And so don't bet parlays in general. But, it's Super Bowl Sunday. It's like the Thanksgiving of gambling. You just unbuckle your belt and get a little saucy.
I thought the funniest thing about the Super Bowl, outside of me and Jen losing, which is the one consolation I have for the team I'm losing, the team I'm rooting for losing, is that my good friend Jen is heartbroken. It does make me feel a little bit better. But outside of that, the funniest thing about the Super Bowl was that there was an alternate halftime show. Like, you know how when the president does a State of the Union address and the minority party will like pick some sweaty weirdo to say something very dramatic as if they're the shadow minister? We did that with the halftime show, which I find hilarious.
So funny, funny you should mention that. You know that the modern halftime show, in terms of booking really top acts, began when In Living Color on the fledgling Fox network did a rival halftime show back in the 90s when Fox was just kind of getting started. They had no relationship with the NFL. They wanted a way to get people's attention. And there was enough of a switchover that the NFL was like, okay, we need to start taking this more seriously. And they put more time and effort and pageantry into the halftime show to make it kind of the spectacle that it is today. Those kinds of things are not rare. What is more rare and more irritating, in my opinion, is that it's yet another front of the stupid fucking culture war that just rages endlessly.
Being a limited government guy that wants a small but competent and effective government, a large part of why I want that is so I don't have to think about politics and fucking everything else. That's one of the benefits of a republic, is you don't have to think about government all the time. And that's one of the good things about sports. One of the good things about sports is that we can all come together and throw batteries at Santa in Philadelphia. And you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. We just want to clock Santa in the head with batteries and then get back to our weird drunken mating in the parking lot because we're Eagles fans. But now we got to turn it into a red versus blue thing.
Yeah. It's dumb. And the biggest problem is that the NFL just won't pay people to do the halftime show. If they paid people to do the halftime show, they'd just book Taylor Swift and this would be done. But they refuse to pay people to do the halftime show, which is why they outsourced it to Rock Nation after the Colin Kaepernick stuff, because that was a way to kill two birds with one stone.
I am skeptical of this claim. So Justin, you and I were both in the comedy trenches in New York and getting paid for doing comedy in exposure. And most of the time that's utter bullshit. I would say the Super Bowl would be sufficient exposure to warrant somebody doing it for free or for a pittance.
Well, and Taylor has said that the reason she didn't want to do it this year is that if Travis was in it, she wasn't going to steal his spotlight and be a part of it. So I think Taylor would do it once he's retired. I also think Bad Bunny is the biggest artist in the world. He's not a bad pick. He's just a bad pick if you're someone who can't handle hearing another language. But my friends were excited for Bad Bunny, not just for political.
It was a culture war thing. And you had a bunch of people that were excited oh, this is great. What a beautiful culture.
No, it wasn't a culture war thing. It
is a culture war thing.
You don't think it's possible for people to actually enjoy Bad Bunny and be excited to see the show he was going to put on?
I enjoy Bad Bunny. I have voluntarily listened to Bad Bunny. I watched Bad Bunny in a San Juan street fight in WWE Backlash a few years ago. I watched Happy Gilmore too. I refuse. I have repeatedly watched his Please Don't Destroy sketch where he does a Shrek remake. I'm very much in enjoyment of Bad Bunny. I like Benito. I've listened to his music. It's not my favorite music in the world. Reggaeton is not my favorite genre in the world. I do think that if you separated any of the political stuff out of it, that you'd have more people that were saying, who cares? But because it was a culture war issue, people were very much talking themselves in to the halftime show, which I thought was very well choreographed and very well staged. The biggest thing that I thought would have been nice is if the large majority of its primary audience knew what the fuck was being said.
All I know is that I went to a Super Bowl party with approximately 40 people, and the people that were there were not political. They weren't talking about politics at all, but they were excited for the music. And when it came on, some of them were getting up and they were dancing to it. Like, my friends, they do like dancing and they knew the song. So it's like, I don't think that everyone was faking their excitement for seeing the most popular artist in the world. Like, I checked, and on the Spotify top 20 list, he had number 8, I think 14 and 8. Like, he had 3 out of the top 20. This isn't just political, Justin. Some people actually enjoy the man.
I think he's a fucking huge artist.
Clarifying question. Justin, when you say it's a culture war thing, was Bad Bunny selected for culture war issues, or was the backlash to Bad Bunny culture war?
Rock Nation was brought on by the NFL to correct a cultural blind spot that they wanted more diversity in the halftime show. And so Rock Nation, now became an outlet that could fund bigger productions and could have the connections to get bigger artists. And so that's where you got Rihanna. That's where you've gotten the last few halftime shows, Usher, stuff like that. Now, in general, all I want from a halftime show, and I enjoyed the halftime show. I don't want to say that I'm more exhausted by the discourse than I am critical of anything that happened. I have not watched the Turning Point one. I
just want to cut my grass. I just want to drink my beer. So lame. Go on.
I mean, again, this is the culture war. You're on the front lines of the culture war, Jen. You are fighting the culture war. Why are you telling me that this is not a culture war thing?
No, because your reaction when I told you that people who were not being political genuinely enjoyed that halftime show was like, that's just because of the culture war. It's like,
no, I'm saying that there were many
My friend
people
Jeff doesn't give
it.
a shit. Like,
I'm not saying that everybody was faking it. I'm saying that there were many people who were faking it that wouldn't give a shit about it if it weren't a political thing.
I think there are plenty of people that were just watching the Super Bowl and like, it didn't really matter who it was. If it was someone they liked and if they were, going to hear good music, they were going to bop around to it and it wasn't that big of a deal. I think we're too online, which is how we're even involved in this stupid fucking battle between Turning Point and Bad Bunny. Like, it was all so stupid, but it was really started by people that didn't like that there was going to be a Super Bowl halftime show that wasn't in English. And
well, that I do think is there's a point to like, there's so few monocultural moments left in general. This is a boomer take. I'm willing to take, my lumps on the idea that this is a boomer take, but I think I would have liked Green Day as the halftime show. I think I've said it on this show. Yeah. I would have liked Green Day as the halftime show more than I would have liked Bad Bunny opening and Green Day in the halftime show. Green Day's got like 6 or 7 hits that most people know.
I would have actually watched the halftime show if it had been Green Day. I don't got anything against Bad Bunny. I don't know Bad Bunny, and my guess is it's the kind of stuff you play in clubs, so I don't really want to listen to it. But like if Green Day had done it, I would have listened.
That's all. That's my only thing. My only thing is that like it's a monocultural moment where everybody can gather and it won't be confused. I thought that the halftime show was extraordinarily choreographed. It was very well done. He's a really exceptional performer. Again, I watched him in a San Juan street fight against Damian Priest. Nobody can question my allegiance to Benito.
Happy Gilmore too.
I saw Happy Gilmore too.
Well,
I didn't like him so much.
My personal opinion on this, like, I haven't even shared it yet. It wasn't my favorite halftime show. It wasn't. My favorite will always be like the Aerosmith, the Britney Spears, that one that had like all those people. I loved that halftime show.
Very white.
Very white, but I don't care. I really enjoyed that one. I was able to sing along to the song. So I get this not being
Nelly
your preference.
was on that one. Nelly was on that one, I think. Yeah.
But my point is, I get this not being your preference, but to host a completely separate halftime show in protest, like that's where it crosses a line into just being like super ick. Like if you don't enjoy Bad Bunny, like go eat a cupcake for those 10 minutes. Like you don't have to throw this giant hissy fit. That's more.
Or just go get dinner with Jeff Maurer, which is what I did. That's why I showed up an hour late to or like 2 hours late to the football game. And it was like, who's everybody rooting for? The Vancouver? Good. I'm for Boston. That was my experience. I just went and had dinner with a friend.
Look, Turning Point did it because it built their fucking YouTube by 2 million. They didn't spend all that much money doing it. And they now have a greater reach because they're at the center of a conversation that is globally discussed. So they benefited from it.
The reactionary babies.
Sure.
With a racist twinge.
They got a good football team, though. You got to give it to Turning Point. Their football team is a great wide receiver.
Hell of a football team. Hell of a football team.
They just want to cut their grass.
You know what? I'm gonna stick up for country music for a second. Now I'm not. Again, I think the whole idea of an alternate Super Bowl is very funny. I didn't watch it. I assumed, is Toby Keith dead? Was it?
Yes.
It wasn't him then, right?
No,
he's haunting Oklahoma City. Noting that I think it's all stupid. Like I'm gonna stick up for country music for a moment. I used to not like country music. Like I think it's very oft stated. People will say I like all music. I just don't like rap and country music because they're a little bit more. They've got harder edges to them, right?
Yeah.
So I was that for a very long time. Plus, being a bedwetting nerd from Oklahoma, I was deeply insecure about being a hillbilly for a long time. Then, when I moved to Austin, Texas, I started listening to country music, and I rather like it. Now, you can divide it in two, though, right? There's poppy country music, which is guy talking about cutting grass with blonde in the background. Then there's old dudes singing about regret. Old drunks singing about regret that did a little bit of time in prison are fucking awesome. And I love that. And I feel like country music in general has a broader panoply of topics that it goes into. Most pop music is just romance in one form or another, but the human experience is much broader than that. And country music oftentimes goes into other realms of topics beyond romance, which I appreciate.
I like country music. In fact, I think when we go karaokeing, I'm the only one who knows a lot of country music songs. I'm not shitting on country music. I'm shitting on the Turning Point decision to have a guy standing there with a guitar singing literally, I just want to cut my grass. I just want to drink my beer. Like it was the most boring. How do you know that
that wasn't the lyrics in the Bad Bunny song?
I don't, but his beat was a lot more fun than the guy with the guitar singing these slow, sad song about like, I just want to dirt. Like it was so lame. So if that's what they wanted.
You're responding to a clip that went viral that was meant to dunk on the Turning Point thing. Yes, that's the point of a clip that's meant to dunk on it.
It's lame. This wasn't a comment on all country music. It was that performance is lame. Kid Rock also lame. Like Turning Point is lame.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
Nobody is challenging your point. I don't know why you keep saying it.
Well, then start the fucking show if you don't want to hear from me, Justin.
No, another bad Super Bowl for Drake wrote in. I want to thank Jen for retiring those socks.
He didn't even see my socks.
You got to go to OnlyFans for that.
I already hate this show.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young, also back in Austin, Texas.
I'm Jen Briney.
And from Washington, D.C.
Yo soy Andrés Heaton.
And we're not wrong. I
sound like a vampire when I do my Spanish accent. I sound like Dracula.
I know, Bela Lugosi.
Yo quiero
Espanol. On this edition of the program, we'll be talking about European leaders not faring great in global popularity, at least with their own people, as well as an Olympian admitting to cheating on his girlfriend after winning a bronze medal. All that plus your emails. Do we have any takes before we get into the main story? Because obviously this is a bit of a sillier episode. The Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mom, this has been a big topic of conversation. Does anybody have opinions on this? Like, I didn't want to make it a full topic because I don't know what my opinion is, but people sure like talking about it and have like texted me about wondering what my opinion was.
I've not paid much attention to it. One of the Today Show hosts' mothers has been kidnapped, which is awful. That's about all I know, and I don't know that I'll be able to drill down much beyond that. I hope they're able to find this lady. Justin,
I
was
don't know how
surprised
to have an opinion other than that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I might say it's good just to oppose Jen. But, but if she weren't here, I'd say it's pretty bad. Justin, I'm surprised that you didn't want to talk about Washington Post. I felt that Washington Post laying off, a quarter of its workforce would be more like media chat. That was, it's fine that we're not doing it. It's just what I anticipated.
That's another situation where it's like, that's bad.
I got one
but you go
into the headline that I was going to write for it, and my fingers blew off the keyboard from Jen rolling her eyes just instinctively. And so I decided against it, that we would have something else.
Right.
I don't have a whole lot to say about that other than like, I think that big media outlets are important. I think that big media outlets that have budgets so they can report on things without being afraid of lawsuits from powerful people are important. I think the Washington Post has been mismanaged, and I think that it has a toxic relationship with its staff, to the point where its staff was like calling for people to drop their subscriptions when they disagreed with decisions that management made. And so I don't know how you solve it. I wouldn't have solved it like that. But what are you going to do other than like larger conversations about journalism? You can listen. I did a conversation with Chris Cillizza on my podcast a few weeks ago that went into some of the issues there, but what are you going to do? I know a bunch of people that work there, and I hope they all find happiness in the future. But
I think there's a ripe opportunity for somebody to start a new media outlet and scoop up all the people that got laid off.
Oh, I mean,
so I probably shouldn't say this, listeners, but we in the can, we're not wrong. LLC has about $800 million that we're not sure what we want to do with, and I keep pushing. Let's hire those laid off Washington Post writers, and Justin wants to expand into virtual reality. And Jen just wants to let it sit there and accrue interest. It's this weird argument we keep having.
These board meetings are really contentious.
Yeah.
We're not wrong. European major leaders are facing historically low approval ratings, fueling political instability and strengthening far-right movements. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is fighting for his survival amid fallout from the Epstein files, compounding already dire public dissatisfaction driven by high prices and economic stagflation. Meanwhile, in France, President Emmanuel Macron sits at just a 16% approval, boosting prospects for the far-right national rally, and Germany's Friedrich Merz is similarly unpopular. All of this according to Morning Consult. Incumbents across Europe are being punished over inflation, immigration, weak growth, and far-right parties now at the door. Just to give you guys a sense of this, Emmanuel Macron was at 16% aggregate approval, Friedrich Merz at 21%, Keir Starmer at 23%. So he's the most popular one, and he's getting run out of government currently. At the top, you had Narendra Modi of India with the 67%, Javier Milei at 58%, and Sanae Takachi of Japan, who actually just won a big election victory.
Actually translates to Karate Kid. Japanese is a fascinating language.
Mark Carney also at 54%. Jen, why do we think that there's a drag on these politicians?
So, having just come back from 3 months in Europe, I traveled to a lot of the countries that you just named. And I feel like the common thread with all of them is actually very similar to what we're going through here, which is that housing costs are going up for everyone, and everyone feels financially pinched. And the far right is blaming immigrants, and without really knowing who else to blame, that seems pretty convenient for people. The far right parties are also really good at saying, this is the results we're going to give you, but they don't actually give specifics on how they're going to approach it. And when you're not in power, it's a lot easier to pull that off, as we are now seeing in the United States. Once someone like Trump gets in power, they don't know what the fuck to do. And so the prices are not going down. And I think that's also a problem with inflation. The entire world dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. And when inflation happens, the prices go up. They don't come back down. And so even though you can say inflation is slowing or whatever, if your prices are high and staying high and you think they're going to stay high forever, you're unsatisfied. And I think even though a lot of times these issues cannot be solved by the politicians at the top, we blame them. And, we talk about it all the time on this show, that a lot of times we blame the president for things that Congress is in charge of. But like, if you are the head of the country, if you're the number one guy, you get the blame, whether it's fair or not. But it was interesting traveling across Europe and just seeing how similar the problems were. And it kind of makes sense to me, because we all are dealing with a now global economic system that isn't really serving the working people all that well. And so to go to all these countries and like kind of feel the same issues wherever I went, they're dissatisfied with their government, we're dissatisfied with ours. I don't know, just kind of checks out to me. It just kind of makes some sense to see those approval ratings be about the same.
Why would they be less popular than like Modi or Malay or the Prime Minister of Japan?
Well, I mean, those are places I've never been, so I don't really know. So I can't really compare that, to be honest. I don't know.
Heaton?
Let's start with the ones that are doing better. We'll take Mark Carney to begin with. Mark Carney, based on my limited read of him, is a fairly sedate technocrat. He's not a cultural warrior. And that means that he's not going to have a ton of enthusiasm behind him, because he's not going to have a lot of hard edges, but he's going to get more consensus because there's not as many rough spots. So that doesn't surprise me. Then you can add to that Mark Carney is a oppositional figure to an external national nemesis in the form of Donald Trump. You could argue that's why he got elected, that the conservative would have won in Canada had it not been for Trump saber rattling and talking about annexing Canada. So people get very motivated when it is an external threat against our leader. And so I think Mark Carney's probably able to coast on that to a great extent. I don't know how he's doing as a prime minister, but just from a political standpoint, that makes sense. I also suspect that it's just easier to be Canadian prime minister than it is to be the president or the head of a unitary parliament like the United Kingdom. So Canada has a federated system where most of the governance is done on a provincial level. Healthcare is handled provincially. Like the federal government in Canada handles Native American healthcare and it handles drug pricing, but everything else is taxed, spent, and administered at the provincial level. So if the government's not doing very well, I think that that's probably going to get absorbed at the provincial level rather than the national level. So I'm not surprised that in general, Canadian premiers are just probably going to be more consensus and higher popularity. When you get to Argentina, the gigantic issue in Argentina prior to Milei was they had year over year crippling inflation. Like we had a whole government arguably brought down by 10% inflation under Joe Biden. And you saw similar levels of churn and burn in Europe with inflation as well, with ballpark similar levels of inflation. Whereas in Argentina, it was like, I don't remember, it was like 1,000% per year for years. I don't know. It was crazy levels of inflation. Milei brought inflation down.
Yeah.
He brought inflation down. Yeah. And for all of the tumult that has been introduced into Argentina, there's more housing and inflation's going down. So I'm not surprised that he would be a controversial but popular figure. With Modi, I don't know. I hardly know anything about Indian politics. I think that the Indian system has a much stronger national party, and that might have something to do with it. But really, my guess is, assuming that the polling is accurate and that they have a free press, I don't really know to what extent the government's involved with the press over there, which could also be accounting for it if they have like government media outlets. I don't know. But I think that while you'd have more popular leaders in countries that are poor but on the up and up is that the vast majority of people don't care as much about actual prosperity as they do about trajectory. So like just as a thought experiment here in the United States, let's say that Mark goes from earning $40,000 last year to $55,000 this year. Meanwhile, Mary earned $100,000 last year and she earns $100,000 this year. Who had the better year? I would argue that Mary had the better year, both years. She's doing better overall. But if you were to talk to Mary and Mark about how they're doing, Mark's going to be way more optimistic. He's making significantly more than he was last year, so he's going to feel very optimistic. And India's doing that. India, while comparatively poor, is increasing in its economic growth. It's growing. It's going on the right trajectory. So I could see that electrifying a leader that is seen as in charge of it. You go to Europe on the flip side, Europe is laggardly. Now, to throw out a few things in advance, I like Europe. There's all sorts of things that Europe gets right. They have wonderful cities. They have walkable cities. There's great culture. The social safety nets are arguably better than in the United States. Superior beer and rule of law. Good for you, right? So there's good things that Europe is doing, but it is laggardly and it is slow growth. When you go back to like 2000, the European Union and the United States were pretty much tied in terms of GDP. It was anybody's guess as to whether the EU would outpace the United States or not. That has not happened. The EU is much slower in economic growth. That's both in terms of GDP. If you were to slide in most Western or Southern European countries, they would be around Mississippi if they were added to the United States as a constituent state. And then when you get past GDP, which can get thrown off by things like billionaires, the purchasing parity is lower in every quintile except for the bottom bit. So when you're in Europe, the 10%, the people at the very lowest 10% in Europe do better than the people in the lowest 10% in the United States. Point to their redistribution system, point to their social safety net. But when you look at every economic cohort outside of that, there's greater purchasing parity in the United States, and it's getting attenuated as Jen brings up in Europe. So even if they're doing okay, and they are compared to everywhere else in the world outside of the United States, Europe's kicking ass, but they're not growing, they're not going very fast, and it feels stale. And so I think that is probably going to make all leaders have a lower amount of popularity. Now you add that, you then add some structural elements to it. The British never liked their prime minister, ever. They just don't like their prime minister. It's one of the things I love about the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom brilliantly backed into this accidental system where they reserve popularity and reverence for the king, and they all either hate or begrudgingly tolerate their prime minister. Like when I first went to Scotland, Gordon Brown was the prime minister. Now you would think a Labour guy from Scotland would be popular in Scotland. No, they didn't like Gordon. They voted for him. They didn't like him. No one ever liked him. So I'm not surprised by any of that in the United Kingdom. And Starmer in particular, I've not been paying attention to his premiership. I don't know if he's doing a good job or a bad job. I will say whatever is happening doesn't seem to have anything to do with Keir Starmer. Like when he got elected, the month after he got elected, when he got sworn in, when he walked into Downing Street and they had the cat meet him or whatever the fucking British do, right? He was polling at like, I don't know, I want to say like 50% approval. Like it was reasonably high. And then 3 weeks later, it cratered to like 37. Like nothing happened. Literally nothing happened during that time. It's just that everybody hated the old prime minister because that was the prime minister and everybody hates the prime minister. And they got a new prime minister and they went, yay, a new prime minister. And then once he'd been there for 3 weeks, they went back to hating the prime minister. So I think that's what's going on with the United Kingdom. With France, I don't know as much about France in terms of their structure, but I will say that what football is to America, protesting is to France. That is their national hobby, is lighting shit on fire and flipping cars over and then fucking and smoking cigarettes. Like that's what the French do. So I'm not surprised that they would have low popularity. And then in Germany, I don't know how you could be popular as a chancellor in Germany. I don't know how it's even possible that anybody could like you. In Germany, they've got the Schuldenbremse, which is a debt break. So they've got a constitutional prerogative in the German government that they can't exceed. I want to say it's like their deficit can't run more than 0.35% of the GDP. I don't remember the exact figures, but there's a constitutional mechanism in place that says they can't deficit spend beyond a fractional amount. That's not going to be popular. Why is that? Because when you have a bunch of stuff that you need to spend money on, which Germany needs to do, you either have to raise taxes, which is unpopular, or you have to cut social services, which is unpopular. And whoever's running Germany always has to do that. You add to that in Germany, they have a coalitional government, so they always are ruling by committee. They rarely have one party that actually has a majority. Right now, it's the Christian Democratic Union with the Social Democrats. So they're already, the actual governing coalition has some amount of infighting, and anything you do requires massively unpopular things with the public. I would love to have that, by the way. There's a reason that our debt is horrible. It's because no team is willing to do what actually is necessary, which is simultaneously raising taxes and cutting social spending. We're not going to get out of it either way. And it's very unpopular. It's why we never do it. So I'm not surprised that any of these ones would be low. And that is why I think that they are low and the other countries are comparatively high.
These are really low. I mean, like Keir Starmer, it's crazy what's happened in the UK where like, I was just talking with a guest who's going to be on Friday's show, and she's, come out of the Labour Party. And it's like, oh, there's always been a chaotic element of British politics, through the Blair years and the Thatcher years and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a key there. You just said years, plural, with a name in front of it. The problem with the prime minister over the last decade is they can't get to that plural. They're there for a year and change, and then they wind up getting replaced within their own party, or they get their party gets voted out if there is a general election. We've had like 7 prime ministers over the last 10 years over there. It's pretty crazy. I don't know. I mean, I genuinely, there's been a lot of ink spilled about the rise of kind of populist parties throughout Western Europe. You have to imagine that at least part of that is because of numbers like these. But I don't quite know. I mean, obviously, like Jen said, it's hard to know without being there exactly what the one for one is, except, maybe the answer for like Malay, for example, low bar because Argentina was such an economic mess. But if it is pointed in the right direction and you don't feel like it is going in the wrong direction, then maybe you get a little bit of, well, you're not the active problem in a way that maybe voters look at Starmer, Merz, and Macron.
Yeah, I think there's a few other things too, like the people that we just mentioned, Macron and Merz. Is it Merz?
Yeah,
Macron and Merz are both within the context of their country centrists. And like, if I had to guess, if I were making a political org chart of France, I'm guessing that there is a significantly large vocal progressive element, and there's clearly a significant large conservative element in Marie Le Pen, and they've settled on a centrist president. Good call, in my opinion. I would prefer Macron over Le Pen, and I would prefer Macron over a literal communist. But if you have a centrist in a country with very active polarized sides, they're probably not going to be super popular. And then there's a whole other things too, right? Like we didn't talk about immigration. Like Germany let in a ton of immigrants during Angela Merkel with the Syrian refugee crisis, and then they did it again with Ukraine, which is very different than how we do immigration in the United States. Most of the immigration we have in the United States are economically productive people that come over here and work. Now, they might be doing it illegally, but they're productive and they're not really a net drain. Whereas when you bring over a ton of refugees, that's an expense that the government's having to handle because they're not coming over to work. They're coming over to be settled and provided social services in order to get them in. There's also questions of whether they can integrate as well. By not being able to work, you might end up creating more ethnic ghettos than the assimilation model we've got in the United States. It's a very contentious issue in Europe and in Germany and in France. In Germany, that's a lot of what is Jen alluded to, fueling the rise of the AfD, the alternate Germany party. I don't know what the acronym is. So I think that like there's a lot of issues that are over there that they're dealing with that we're not necessarily dealing with. Then it might just be that we have social media and everybody's going to hate everybody forever. It might just be that in a world of Twitter and Facebook, everybody bitches so much that there's no longer any actual popular person that can wield power.
Yeah. Maybe it's that. You think it's social media, Jen?
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know how to judge what other people think about their leaders. Like, I don't know. I mean, social media is how we talk shit, and it's pretty easy to talk shit on a wider scale using social media. So maybe, but I think that, like I said, the vibe felt really similar to what we had here. That's all I know. All I can go on is like, I was going to these countries. Everyone's bitching about housing. No one is finding that their housing is going down. Food prices are going up. Now we're slapping tariffs on people and making it even worse. And like, I do know that people in Europe, I mean, I think Andrew's onto something where Carney is getting more popular because he's standing up to Trump, and like European leaders are kind of seen like pussies when it comes to Trump right now, because they're just kind of bending over and taking it. So I think it's a lot of different things, but I think it usually comes down to money. And I think most peasants in this world right now are feeling pinched in this economic system, and they're getting pissed at the people that are in charge of it. I mean, that's the only through line I can see with any of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always interesting to like try to take lessons from around the world. And, you know, I never really know how much to center everything around their relationship to America. Obviously, Mark Carney would not be in the position that he's in if Donald Trump did not reshape that election by his 51st state stuff. I think that Paul Revere would probably be leading Canada if it weren't for that. And that might well be the case for any of these people, no matter how unpopular they are. If they come up for election and they decide to seek another term, that Donald Trump can say, I don't like him, and they would become more popular. That may well be the case. But my suspicion is that there is probably other things that, like Jen said, you know, for example, in France, this is something that my guest on Friday's show made mention of, a retiree, you know, with the benefits of the government, has more purchasing power than somebody at the prime of their working age. And that is the kind of thing that sows anger, that like, you know, like, why, wait, hold on. I'm the most productive I'm ever going to be, and I can't buy more than my grandpa. Like, that's disheartening. That's the kind of thing that makes you really angry and sad. And there is a lot of comparison. If I am going to say that social media plays a role, it might be less in the cult of personality of our leaders and more in the, wait, why did they get and I don't? What have you done for me lately? Like, am I the sucker because I'm doing X, Y, and Z? If there's a defining emotion in our era, that might be it. Like, you know, comparison bringing us to despondency.
Yeah, I'd like to look at the rates within Europe. Like I looked at some of them. I couldn't find all of them, but like the others are also lagging. Spain and Italy are at 34% and 35% popularity for their leaders respectively, which is between France and Germany. Denmark's higher. Denmark's at 44%. Mette Frederiksen.
Well, no, 34 and 35 would put it well above Keir Starmer at 23, which is the most popular.
Well above Keir Starmer, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that would
still
be more, that would be in between Erdogan of Turkey at 34 and Donald Trump of the United States of America at 40.
Yeah. Whereas Denmark, 44%. I'm actually surprised Denmark's only 4% higher than Donald Trump. But like, it would be interesting. Like, I think a lot of the problem in Europe is that there are conflicting models of economics that are there. Northern Europe tends to have a redistributive system, whereas Southern Europe and Western Europe tend to have a pre-distributive system. And it results in the kind of thing you're talking about with real restrictions on labor that make it very difficult to hire people, make it difficult to create big businesses. You don't see that as much in Northern Europe. And I would be curious to see if they have the same level of political umbrage in, say, Sweden and Norway as they do in Germany and France. But I don't know.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong is where you need to go if you want to get a bonus episode of this show. And this week, we will be discussing a new study that says people with below average cardiorespiratory fitness being 775% higher of a risk for outbursts, both in person and online. What does our physical fitness say about our patients and the discourse writ large? We will discuss on our Patreon episode. Thank you, everybody on Patreon. And, we're going to do this dance again. Patreon did a thing a year and change ago about how they were going from the old way of charging to the new way of charging. And then they said that they were going back. Well, that hokey has pokeyed, and now we are going back to the fact that we are changing the way that we are charging. It is going to be a monthly and annual situation. I don't know when we're going to flip the switch on that. We'll talk as a team about that. But they say this time it's happening, and it's going to happen for real. So just
I'm talking
yourself.
to Patreon next week about that. I'm going to meet with them and figure out how to do the transition. I'm looking forward to it because I live in fear, in daily terror that I forgot to charge the post on Patreon. Like, I've never done it, but I always am terrified that I'm going to forget to do it and lose a quarter of my monthly income. But I don't know. When I switch over on the political orphanage, we'll see if I end up keeping the same amount of money or if I shed a bunch of people. I'm not sure. A little bit worried.
I mean, at this point, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's a Substack time because Patreon just keeps jerking us around. So I don't know.
All true. Although in their defense, though, it's Apple that's doing it.
It's
no.
I
okay.
believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're pegging it to. But it's like, look, either you care about creators or you don't. And, you built a system that was a certain kind of way. Look, if you're going to make a change, make a change. If you're not going to make a change, don't make a change. If you're going to fight with Apple, fight with Apple. If you're not going to fight with Apple, then don't fight with Apple. It's more my frustration with Patreon, and this goes way back beyond this, is like, just be a bank, man. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes certain bank accounts, you're not allowed to have them anymore, and you're not allowed to invest in certain things, and they just make decisions, and that's that. But you want to know what I do know is that there is a steady hand at the wheel that is fiscally minded and that is determined to keep my money safe. This like hemming and hawing stuff is just not it for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a gigantic fan, but we'll
talk.
We'll chew it. We'll chew it on. We'll chew it on. That's a great phrase that people use all the time. Anyway, patreon.com.
A Justinism. Is that our first Justinism?
Yeah, we chew it on. We're going to chew it on. Chew it onward.
I like it.
Sturla Holm Lingard won bronze in the men's individual biathlon in the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, and then stunned viewers with a tearful post-race confession. Speaking to Norway's NRK, he revealed that he had cheated on his girlfriend 3 months earlier and only told her a week before the race. The revelation, he said, made the past week the worst of his life. Lingard explained that he went public to show accountability and how much he still cares, hoping that the honesty might help win her back. He later told VG that he deeply regrets his actions and is accepting his consequences. Mr. Andrew Heaton. Romantic on Valentine's Day week or moronic?
Probably moronic. I'm going to say probably moronic. It's possible because I don't know his former girlfriend. It's possible that they, maybe they'll get back together. She just really needed a show of force from the guy to prove that he really,
they apparently
really
only got
it.
together 6 months ago, for the record.
Oh, yeah, moronic. Yeah, probably right. Also, like, now you're the affair guy. You were the Olympic medalist. Now you're the affair guy. I think probably moronic. I don't know. I think it's probably situation dependent. Somebody I know, when he was courting a lady, he sent a string quartet. Yeah, he was courting this lady. And he sent a string quartet to her office and it mortified her. And his perspective is, I guess I'm just a romantic. And I'm like, no, you took a lady and you had everyone in her office stare at her for had to quit working, had to pay attention to the string quartet and stare at her and make her the center of attention for the entire time. And then the rest of the day, that some women might like that, but I would say in general, most people would be very embarrassed by that amount of sudden attention. And I could see a similar thing happening where some gal in Flugestraga, Norway is drinking a pint or some ridiculous hot mead drink with her friends at a ski chalet, and they're like, Shelley, or Skjellbuten, isn't that your former boyfriend? Did he cheat on you? So I think it's probably moronic.
Jen, come on. This withered, broken heart. This is a grand romantic gesture, is it not?
I kind of love it. I don't know if it's just me really enjoying a train wreck or if there is some logic to it, because he said maybe if I commit social suicide, she'll know how much I care. And there's a logic to that. And he didn't name her, which I also think was, it's a little less string quartet if her name isn't out there. So it's like her friends will know. But I do think on his biggest moment, he just won the medal. This is the moment for him to place that there. It does show how much he cares, especially they weren't together that long. And if he does regret it that much, I don't know. I think that there's a chance this could work on me. It doesn't directly embarrass me.
Joe, if you're listening,
embarrasses him.
Joe, if you're listening, you can fuck another woman if
you really good at curling.
Medal. Get really good at curling, and then apologize on international television. Joe, you got one shot.
He's got to win that medal, though, and I don't know in his mid-40s if that's going to happen. But I don't know. There's something about it. I don't know. I don't completely hate it as a play for her. Now, do I think this was a good move for him? No, because as you said, he's not going to be the guy that won the medal. He's going to be the breakup guy. Although we wouldn't be talking about him. We wouldn't even think about him if he didn't do this. So now he's way more famous. Like maybe now he's going to get a contract with like De Beers and like be the guy who does the engagement rings or something. So maybe it's just genius. Maybe it's just really smart attention whoring. But either way,
he never had the affair. His girlfriend loves him. She told him to do it.
Dude, number one.
Maybe. I don't know. I can see some upsides to this.
Yeah. Win for Sturla. Sturla is sterling in his thinking. There's no way this goes wrong. Okay. So he's at the end of this gigantic physical thing. He achieves his goal, or at least, he would have liked 2 more places up, but at least he walks it. He's an Olympic medalist for the rest of his life. He feels heartbroken. So he does this move. Option 1, romantic comedy, final scene. He gets the call. She comes running down the hallway. Oh my God, this problem that happened now is resolved, and now they're together forever. Option 2, she's like, look, you still fuck my best friend. You're an asshole. Like, I don't give a shit if you're really good at the biathlon. I don't give a shit if you humiliated yourself. You're fucking out. Guess who's swimming in Nordic pussy? This guy. Are you telling me that his DMs as the open-hearted romantic who used his personal platform to beg and plead for the love of his life, that's not going to be catnip for women around the world? That dude's DMs are popping right now. And I'll bet you it's filled with women that are amazing looking. This guy is a genius. I think he's smart and awesome. And also, the one thing I would say, did you have to tell her a week before your greatest athletic achievement? Like, if there was ever a time to admit that you cheated on your girlfriend, can it wait until after the Olympics? I don't know.
Or maybe this was the play the whole time. You tell her the week before to set this up, because if you tell her after, then you don't have this chance to make it all good. Because he knew for 3 months. So they were together for 6. He cheated at month 3, and then he told her 3 months later. So he's been sitting on this news. And if he wanted to finagle this, like, he had to tell her before in order to apologize on the air.
This is the moment he can rebound. This is the moment he can declare bankruptcy. He can declare stray dick bankruptcy.
You know what? I completely reversed my position. He's a genius. You've convinced me. Good call. Also, great hero's journey, right? The hero's journey is you
start dating a girl, cheat on her nearly immediately, then tell her right before your biggest achievement.
The hero's journey is you go off on the adventure to get the thing, whatever the thing is, and then once you've got the thing, you realize it's not actually that important and it's not the thing you wanted. The thing you wanted was back home. Then you go back home with all of your newfound superpowers and are fully integrated. He's actually doing that.
Yeah. Have you been watching a lot of Olympics, Jen?
Not really, because we've been moving this whole week, but just like here and there, like passing through airports and hotels and stuff. I seem to constantly be just around for downhill skiing and just horrified at how fast these people are going. Like we're talking 85, 90 miles an hour down a mountain. Like what kind of psycho looks at that and goes, I want to do it. So it's, I've watched, but just like in a terrified, horrified kind of way. And then my husband really wants to find a way to watch curling. He's really into curling for whatever reason. I think it's,
curling's hilarious. Here's why I love curling. Whenever I watch curling, I pretend that people are taunting a Roomba by sweeping right before it can sweep. Fuck you, Roomba. I'm going to sweep before you. It's the funniest sport in the world.
My assistant actually does curling. Like it's something she enjoys because she lives up in Wisconsin. And so she's super into curling and she's happy that my husband's into the curling. We're a curling family apparently.
I take it back. I think the two funniest sports are the luge and dressage. Those are actually the funniest sports. Because like to borrow a Jerry Seinfeld joke, the luge is the only sport you can potentially win against your will. Like you could just grab a really skinny guy and throw him down the luge and he might win. Like that's inherently funny. And then dressage, which is one of the summer sports, is where you get on a horse you haven't met and you convince it to dance. That's insane. I don't know that horse, but I'm going to get on it. No, that's a summer sport. They used to have all sorts of other sports too. Like at one point they had like back in like 1936, they had painting. Like that was one where which obviously didn't work very well because it's completely subjective. Like chess would make sense. You could do chess at the Olympics. I don't know why they don't do chess at the Olympics. That would actually make a ton of sense. But they used to do painting. I haven't been watching Winter Olympics, but I did, unrelated to this, read an article about cheating habits. Can I tell you what I learned?
Yeah.
So somebody did a multi-study, mega study thing where they went through like 20 different studies and then aggregated all of it to get a really broad number of cheating habits of people. And what they found was that about 25% of women cheat and about 35% of men cheat. It's probably would be higher than that because there are more people that would cheat but can't because they can't get laid. But that seems to be a majority of people don't cheat. Good news there. Higher for men, but not like orders of magnitude higher. And there seems to be different patterns that happen along gender lines where in general, when women cheat, they typically are doing it to level up in a relationship. So they'll cheat with a guy that they think is going to be a better boyfriend and then switch over and then probably won't cheat again. Whereas men just want to get laid and just like will burn down their marriage for one more fuck. And it's like a very opportunistic sex thing and are apt to do it repeatedly if they have the opportunity to do it.
I once met a girl and we weren't in the same social circles, but I had looked her up on social media and saw that she was in a relationship and things were headed to a erotic place. And I am so morally attuned. I made sure that she knew that I knew that she was cheating. And I got a sign off from her. And then we still had sex. But that was, I would have felt bad if I didn't let her know. I risked it for the morality.
So just to be clear on this,
Yeah.
you did fuck the gal, but you just let her know you knew what you were doing. You're like, I'm aware that you're cheating. I just want us all to know this.
Well, because also I wanted to know, maybe it's an old Facebook post or they weren't really together and for various different reasons. Like, I just wanted to know whether or not I was going to have to fight somebody. Because you never know. Like, if you're going to get in the middle of a thing that's happening, you want to know. I think it's safe. It's a good thing to know exactly how real that relationship is, because now if you find yourself in the middle of it, then you're like, okay. If it was like at the end,
I'm aware that this is just fucking, lady. I have no pretensions that this is going to turn into anything else.
You don't know what the situation. Like, I have a friend who's married, but they have been in the process of getting divorced for 8 years. So what is she supposed to do? Stay celibate for a person that she doesn't want to be with? Oops, but has like financial things they have to work out. Like, you don't know.
Totally fair. Totally. Yeah. I dated a married woman, but she was going through a divorce, and like that was like her husband had cheated on her horribly for years. It was an awful relationship. He's a shitty human being. She ended that relationship, was for all intents and purposes single, but was still legally married, and got divorced when I was dating her. We had some really good celebratory sex at my camper.
But you know what? Like with Justin's situation, Justin did not commit to the other dude. It's her fault. She's the one who's cheating. So I don't really think it's on Justin. And I feel like, a lot of times when people cheat, the person who got cheated on gets really mad at the person that, but like that's the person that committed to is the one who deserves the blame, 100% of the blame.
I'm glad to hear that.
My only asterisk on that is if the person who cheated is doing it with like a friend. You know what I mean? So it's like, Andrew, if you slept with Justin's wife, like that's when Justin can punch you in the face. But if you're a stranger,
certainly would not do. I very unlikely
Ashley's
to do that. That's why I said almost certainly wouldn't do. So Jen, theoretically,
me too.
If I had slept with an attractive blonde comedian at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival who was in a relationship and also told me that, I'm off the hook.
Yeah, I really don't think that's on you. I think that she's the one in the committed relationship.
Because I felt a little bit bad about that after that happened. I was like, I don't know the guy, but I was like, I feel a little bit bad about this.
But you also, were aware, was she aware?
Yes. This was all up front. This was like we were getting drinks and because we were clearly flirting. Yeah. And then I went to her show a couple of times, and she like mentioned having a boyfriend. Yeah. But we were like we were getting drinks after the show and flirting. So I was like, hey, like, because I know how comedy works, right? Like if I've got a good girlfriend joke, I'm going to keep using it regardless of whether or not I'm in a relationship. So I was like, hey, like, so what happened with the guy you were dating? And she's like, oh, like, we're still together, but it's kind of on the rocks. Like it'll probably work out. And then like eventually like just was like, I want to go home with you. I'm going to be a good person the rest of this trip. I just want to go home with you right now. And I was like, all right, no. I'm going to turn that down.
I mean, I think we're going to get emails about this telling me that I'm 100% wrong, but like, I think she's the cheater. Like you are not.
Everybody direct your ire to Jen.
I would say no. You are freelance dick. You are just dick that you would pick up on the street. It is her job to not pick up the dick, and you just are there. Like you're just. I don't feel great about it, but I'll say that the bulk of the moral rectitude lies on her end. I mean, all I would say in my scenario, I just wanted a verbal commitment, like an exit row on an airline. I just wanted just so we all know where we're like, can I get a yes? Okay. As long as we got a yes and we all knew what we were signing up for, then we were good to go.
You got permission, which is all we were asking for during Me Too. So there you go.
Well, we didn't need permission for that part. That was a green light.
I guess it's not all we were asking.
That was a green light. Emails, you can send them to we're not wrong pod@gmail.com. We got an amazing Venn diagram sent to us of the three of us.
That was great.
It's one of those three Venn diagrams. So there is each of our heads. Between me and Heaton, what we have in common is sketch comedy and Natasha Henstridge.
Yep. I don't know who Natasha Henstridge is, so this is accurate.
Hot woman that Justin and I both fucked, but not at the same time.
Yeah, and Species too.
We're not that close.
Jen and Heaton, child-free dog owner and angry with the housing market.
Uh-huh.
Seems about right.
And then with me and Jen, sports ball and weed.
Woohoo!
Not wrong. And in the center, not wrong, and Arby's. That is what we
Nice.
the one thing we all agree on is being not wrong and Arby's.
The
Arby's
Arby's
is
slayed
great.
me, I do have to say.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
And my year of vegetarianism is over. So now my new rule is occasional meat, which means I can eat Arby's again.
Fuck yeah.
Good.
By the way, how did we not settle on not wrong as our audience? That's the way, like if you just say I'm not wrong, like we would know immediately who you are. If that,
Yeah, just with an R. I'm not wrong.
No,
All right.
don't
All right.
encourage these idiots.
We're back. We're so back. Love language writes, Jen, I've come to a turning point in our non-relationship. You are now my favorite. Thanks for encapsulating what most men think with regard to male-female communication dynamics. Years ago, I told my wife the exact same thing that you told your husband. And I'm about to leave the house looking like a complete moron. Do me a solid and tell me that I look like a moron. I will in turn tell you that you have a booger in your right nostril. This is love.
It really is. Thank you. You're my favorite too.
Role model writes, and this is only bolstered by Heaton's admission of fucking engaging in hot adulterous comedy sex in Edinburgh. Role model writes, I love Heaton's life. It sounds fascinating. It's like he's getting a more rich and full human experience than most of us.
Hey, genuinely, thank you for that. On the Heaton end, particularly as I've been at home with convalescence the last 2 weeks, I feel like my life is just slipping out of my fingers, and I'm like, well, next step, death. Like it doesn't feel that way to me, so I'm genuinely bolstered by this. Thank you very much.
I wanted to put this in because if people only know Heaton from his tales of daring do and his witty repartee and his sterling output as both a communicator and a thinker, you would indeed have this emailer's opinion. If you knew Andrew Heaton and know the boiling vat of acid that turns him into the Joker daily of his own self-loathing, then you would not think that. So I wanted to put that in there so Heaton understands what he means to the world.
I'm thankful to you, Justin. I'm thankful to this correspondent because that is absolutely true. I'll walk around and be like, what am I doing? I played video games for an hour. No one's here in the house. I'm 42. I need to get my eggs frozen. What the fuck is happening? 100%. That's all true. One of my friends, she described me. Who's the? She said like I'm like a Gentile Woody Allen. Not because of the sex stuff, because of the neuroses. Just like this, like bubbling neurotic character. Like that is true. The behind the scenes Heaton is a sop. So thank you.
Are you aware that people are jealous of you?
No, I am not. I'm unaware of that.
Well, be aware.
But glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You are
have a lot of fun.
You're an icon.
That's true. You know what? I'll say this. If I get, pancaked by a cement mixer or something in the next week, there was a hell of a lot of novelty over the course of my life. I think I squeezed more novelty out of my 42 years than most people do in 90 or 100. So I do got that going for me.
You have this thing where you like do things for like a year, right?
Yeah.
And they're usually fucking dumb, like eating vegetables or not drinking or some shit like that. Like useless, fucking really frivolous, useless bullshit. What you should do is live a year acting in the role of what people think of you. So play a character, go deep into method acting where you are only playing the role of what this emailer believes of you.
Wow.
An eccentric, exciting man who is brimming with self-confidence and is just taking on the world and getting anything he wants.
All right. No, that sounds way better than whatever I was going to do this year. Yeah, maybe I'm going to switch. It's only February, right?
Like in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, I've taken up macrame. I've decided to macrame for 3 hours a day. And it's like, fucking whatever. Like,
all right. You know what? I'm going to print this. Oh, you know what? I got a really, really nice email. I'm going to forward it to you both. I don't, because the person sent it to me privately. I don't know if it would be appropriate to read it on air, but I got a really, really nice email from a lesbian. that was saying that I turned her, and I was really from our show. And I was like, I'm going to print that off and put it on my goddamn fridge. So I'm going to do that and this one. Maybe I'll print them off and I'll just keep both of them.
I mean, look, the lady that emailed in that was the misconnection from the DC show. She initially responded to the Patreon. I didn't say this on the show, but she was like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that this was me. I'm going to respond just so I can find out what the prima nocta of Heaton is," because of the joke I made. You have, as the kids say, a high SMV, sexual market value. Nice. You are Heaton maxing at levels that no one has ever seen.
All right, time to get some more distributions.
A brief history of single-room occupancy hotels in New York City writes, there were a ton of them in the Upper West Side in the 70s and 80s. It's where the city used to put single men and single women that were on welfare rather than putting them in Section 9 housing that was reserved for people with children. It was also used to house the mentally ill after the state said we can't have sanitariums anymore. Then the city thought that they were doing folks a whole lot of good by outlawing single-room occupancy hotels. The city was right that those places were substandard and depressing. And while they did outlaw SROs, the city didn't actually come up with an alternative, thus the explosion of homelessness.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Freddie DeBoer's got a book coming out later this year that I imagine he'll come on my program to talk about. When he came on last, he was discussing what it's like to have bipolar disorder. He's going to be talking about mental health care in the United States. And I've wanted to do an episode for years on the deinstitutionalization of people in the country. It is my gut. I don't have the empirical data to back this up, but my guess is that you would probably see a very strong correlation between the amount of people that were previously in insane asylums and the amount of people that are now homeless. Homelessness is a very, very complex issue. There's lots of things going into it, but I think the people that are the most vulnerable are the people that are that are mentally unwell. And I saw a lot of those when I was in New York, of just people that were like schizophrenic. There's no question of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. They're not in condition to do that. And then you add to that, like New York City's really cracked down on diversity of housing over the last 50 years. And they've also put up a lot of impediments to building new housing and rent controls and all sorts of things that make it less fluid. And New York City's a mess in terms of housing. I don't have a lot of faith in Mamdani, but I hope that he's able to do something. Maybe he'll turn a corner on that. I doubt it based on his pick so far, but maybe.
It's not just New York. I mean, my first walk back in Austin, I had to go to CVS, the one in the middle of downtown, and one of the nutties threw a water bottle at me. Like my first walk back. So, and she kind of tricked me because I walked right next to her, which I usually wouldn't do, but she had like a nice coat on. She had luggage. Like I just figured she was a tourist waiting for the bus, and she finished her water bottle and chucked it at me. I was like, damn it. Like, you look like you were not.
Seattle fans. This is why Jen and I are on Team New England Patriots. You don't see that kind of shit coming out of Boston,
she was probably
or wherever the
Drake
team's
didn't
located.
Run for that extra yard.
But it's like, it's all over. Like I saw it in like it's all over the United States. And I feel like I walk different in the United States than I do in Europe, because there was a difference in Europe. Like the homeless people were just simply homeless. I never felt like they were going to throw anything at me. But in Austin, I walked by this lady and I was kind of like, after it happened, I was like, was this one on me? Because usually I'd cross the street or I would go back a block and like avoid if I get the vibe. And my guard was down. But she did have the nice coat on. Like, I don't know. Was this my fault? But I saw the bottle. I saw she was drinking the bottle. I had that thought for like 1 second. I was like, nah. And then ding, hits me with it. Yep. But it's all over this country.
Largest mental health care provider in Oklahoma is the Oklahoma County Jail. That's like there's been.
You want to know what though? Not the worst outcome if the alternative is everybody's out on the streets. I'm not. I think we can do better. But it's like, I'm starting to very firmly believe that if we want a strong social safety net, you also need to provide a firm floor. And so it's like, if you are providing for people and they will not fit into that social safety net, or they are refusing services, or they are continuing to break the law and create a public nuisance, then you do need to arrest them. And you do need it. Like, it's not the best thing in the world. I'm not saying it's great, but I don't think that it's kind. to not.
Yeah. Well, I like this again. I want to get into this with Freddie and do my research on this, but it seems to me that the deinstitutionalization movement that happened in the 80s was kind of two groups that came together in a weird way. There was a group of, for lack of a better term, social progressives that viewed mental disorders as just a different modality. That there's nothing wrong with having schizophrenia. It's just a different way of experiencing the world. We shouldn't lock them up. Paired with very civil libertarian type people that just had a reflexive antithetical position on ever locking anybody up. And I'm not in that camp. If I'm ever schizophrenic and I'm wandering the street, like there's a guy I saw in New York that he was standing in the stairs just wiggling his fingers, talking to ghosts, and he'd shit himself. If I'm ever in that state, I want somebody to lock me up and get me the help I need. So yeah, like I'd say best option, having institutions to deal with people with profound mental health disorder. Yeah. Secondary option, jail. Third option, them stabbing people on the street in terms of order of preference.
Yeah. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest did more harm as a film to this world than Triumph of the Will.
I think so too. I think so too. I mean, I don't think that behavior should be as tolerated as it is. Like, I didn't even think about looking for a cop when this woman threw something at me because it's just
what was going to happen.
What was nothing?
Like
absolutely nothing. Yeah. And that behavior shouldn't be tolerated the way it is. But we have nowhere to put these people. We have like, Andrew, if you were that person who was shitting himself in the street, like, I love you and I don't know what I could do. Like, where could I put you? You know,
there's not a lot you could do. No. Really, there's not a lot. Yeah. But first week I moved to New York City, a guy shoved an older Asian man in front of a train. And he was mentally unwell. The cops knew who he was. He did it because Satan told him to do it, which also, you're an asshole. Like, if Satan tells you to push somebody in front of a train, don't do it, jerk.
Say no to Satan.
Say no to Satan, right? But like the guy was known, but it was like the protocol was, look, as of yet, he's not become a public threat, and so we can't do anything about him. We can stop him from doing very specific things in the moment that are cute, but we can't institutionalize the guy. And like, a guy died, the guy was there.
Epstein was a big topic. Within you, there are two wolves, right? I feel like the entire time you guys were talking about the Epstein documents, Jen was talking about prosecuting in the court of public opinion, and Justin is like, they're innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I want to defend Jen here before we get her point of view on it. I think Jen was very explicitly calling for actual court and not public opinion court.
Yeah, like legal fucking court. Yes. Thank you, Justin.
I think that was where we might differ is where we think the burden of evidence would be and how likely we feel that there would be charges brought. But I don't think that Jen was looking to smear people just in the court of public opinion. I think she wanted charges brought.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I was talking about Peter Attia, I made that pretty clear because it's like he said some shitty things, but there's no evidence that he did anything wrong. And like, I don't think that it affects his medical advice. So it's, he's one of those people where I'm not, writing him off forever because he,
made some saucy jokes with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. But there are some other people.
I think he said pussy is a low carb food or something like that.
Who did that?
Peter Attia.
I don't know. I didn't read too many of the emails.
I saw a funny video.
I think there's a difference between the people that are implicated in having sex with underage people and people who were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Because like he was a billionaire. So some people just liked kissing up to billionaires. I think
also,
we kind of have to,
I have
in the court of
hold
on, Andrew, in the court of public opinion, I feel like we need to do some sorting. I think it's an important thing to do.
Yeah. I was going to say, I have a panoply of weirdo friends. It's like, that's part of my thing is I meet interesting people. Wouldn't surprise me at some point if one of the interesting people I know does something bad. It wouldn't mean that I'm condoning it.
Yeah. Look, there's an element of it. If you were sending emails to Jeffrey Epstein past the aughts, he was a convicted sex offender. So you are going to have to reckon with whatever that is. I don't think that registered sex offenders should never get emails in their lives. I don't think that reaching out to people that you had a prior relationship with necessarily makes you culpable for anything. And I would intensely agree with what Jen said. We do need to make sure that when we're painting with a broad brush here, you identify, okay, who talked to Jeffrey Epstein, who partied with Jeffrey Epstein, who met girlfriends or side pieces or mistresses or fuck buddies through Jeffrey Epstein. And
got
then
gonorrhea from a Russian prostitute.
That is legal. All of that is legal. Who did that with an underage girl? That's where we get into from moral judgment to legal judgment. And that's my only issue with all of this that's gone forward is like, because it's so salacious and because kid fucker and pedophile are just right next to any sentence that involves Jeffrey Epstein, because he has that conviction in Palm Beach and because there are women that are, that are the victims, everything that gets mentioned up to and including guy who likes to party with Jeffrey Epstein now becomes a pedophile. And I think that, in our society, rightly so, there are few bigger pariah labels we have than pedophile. It's social death, right? Like that's what, and that's good. It's a sign of a healthy society that we cordon off behavior like that because it is abhorrent. But we do need to pay attention to, the facts here, because I think it's this does not normally happen. You don't normally just publish all the underlying evidence in a case. Like it's kind of crazy that we're doing it.
But I do think that there were people that were having sex with underage girls who have not been punished. And I would hope that would become something that our justice system would be going after in a much more serious way. That's my fear with these documents, is that we're finding out that there are unpunished criminals out there.
Yeah. I think I've hardened my opinion on this, that my opinion on this lies somewhere between Michael Tracy and Michael Benz. You can listen to Mike Benz on he did a Joe Rogan podcast recently where he went over a lot of these details. He is somebody that he very much believes that Jeffrey Epstein is somebody that worked in a class of humans that finances things for governments that governments don't want on the books. Like there's a class of human that does that. And Jeffrey Epstein was one of them, and that he has connections with all these people going back to Iran-Contra, that Bear Stearns did this. He has worked with banks in Pakistan that were well known to have done this with the CIA. And that's that. Now, he is less convinced on the idea that he was engaged in blackmail, because in his mind, you lose all of your ability to do the job he believes he was doing, and he believes that there's documents to show that he was doing, if you are known to blackmail. What you want to be is a guy that throws parties where sexually pliant women are there for powerful men. That's how you make friends. If the word gets out in the elite circles that you're blackmail man, then less people are going to go to your parties. And what you want is the most powerful people in the world in your social circle of influence. Michael Tracy, on the other hand, is incredibly critical of what he believes is hysteria around this, and what he believes is a lack of evidence to support claims like mass child sex trafficking ring. He also goes another step that I don't know I would put my name on publicly, of very critical of some of the victims, for which he says met Jeffrey Epstein when they were an adult and never claimed themselves to be victims until there was a settlement fund with millions and millions of dollars in it, and you had to claim yourself to be a victim, and that a lot of this is being organized by lawyers who are keeping something going. That is his opinion. I think his opinion is a minority one compared to it, but I will say that when he lays out the facts of what is and is not in these documents, it's hard to argue that there is not a lot of smoke without there being a lot of fire for specific claims of child sex trafficking.
Which is fine. And I have no doubt that Michael's looked into this more than I have. But even if you're talking about women who were over the age of 18, but were raped and forced into things that they didn't want to do, that is also a crime. And even if you're talking about the stuff like he's working with other governments and doing shady stuff, like there might be treason in there if he was working on behalf of other governments and doing things that our government wouldn't want to be done. If he's doing clandestine activities outside of our government's permission, there could be all kinds of crimes going on in that realm. And I understand that that's the type of stuff that the really powerful people don't want. I'm guessing that that's the type of stuff that the powerful would want to keep quiet more than the sex stuff. All I'm saying, there's a lot of smoke here and there's very few asses in jail because of it. So it's like, I'm hoping that the journalists that are doing the digging through here are doing digging and consulting U.S. attorneys in the process all over the country, because I think there were crimes here that haven't been punished. Obviously, can't prove it, not a lawyer, but that's my biggest concern here, is that we have criminals that have been unpunished, and Jeffrey Epstein is just the center of that orbit. So basically, Justin, I'm saying you're right. Your interpretation of what I was saying was correct. This emailer is incorrect. Yeah. And actually, I think this email, if it seems about right for you, I think you're kind of concerned about people's reputations getting destroyed for non-crimes that just like boil down to ick. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, Part of me wonders whether or not we learned anything with Me Too. Like whether or not we had this whole reckoning where we went through this like very big period of emotion. And then we had this kind of thought after the dust had settled on like, okay, well, where was the line? If we could do it all over again, who are we coming down on? Was there more of a witch hunt perspective on this than we should have thought? And this is like that times 1,000, because but we also have dozens of women that have come forward here and given their stories. Many of them have given their names, and like people are questioning the victims. I mean, you just said it. Michael Tracy is questioning the victims. There's been more victim blaming. That was also at the heart of Me Too, that people weren't believing the women. And we're seeing that with Donald Trump. We're seeing it with Jeffrey Epstein. So I think that you can say both sides of Me Too are being exposed all over again, because there's a lot of women here that are being judged, and I think unfairly, as maybe they're liars. Like it's Me Too all over again on that side. Yeah. But also, look, crimes need victims. If somebody says that they were the victim of a crime, they do need to come forward on some level. And right? They have. I don't know what you want they haven't named names as to what. I mean, they say that they were the victims of sex trafficking. Okay. Well, sex trafficking is a broad term that is not necessarily limited to rape or anything underage. Yeah, and you're seeing that they've called the FBI tip line. You've seen that they've been interviewed. You've seen that they've gone to Congress. You've seen that Virginia Giuffre wrote a book and then killed herself. Like, these people are giving details. How much more do we need? Like, what do you want the victims to do? Why are we blaming the victims for these people not being arrested? I'm not blaming the victims. Again, if you want a more aggressive stance on that, I would encourage people to read Michael Tracy. All I am saying is this. The negative space in these conversations are, when in doubt, you are a child rapist, for anybody that is tied to Jeffrey Epstein. And I just think that that's a dangerous place to be. Like that is a place that I think in 5 years, when we revisit this moment, the steady-handed thought will be, maybe we should have taken more care to label people possible child rapists. I think we have parallel dangers. I think we're both very much onto something, because the other danger is we have dozens of women that'll say Donald Trump is a rapist, Jeffrey Epstein is a rapist, and yet they still walk free. And so it's like, well, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't. Well, yeah, because he's maybe died in prison. He died during the first Trump administration under the administration's care. That's a coincidence. But anyway, Donald Trump is a great example of this. He is now the president of the United States, has been accused
credibly of sexual assault and has been accused of all kinds of things from people of all kinds of ages. And he's the president of the United States. So I think a lot of us, especially with my genitalia, are very concerned that, like, if you do come forward and you say this happened to me, you can have dozens of people backing you up and nothing will happen to the dude. So I think that's one danger. And I think the thing you talk about is also a danger. And I think it's Me Too all over again, in that we still don't know how to walk that line. But I think I am concerned that there's unpunished criminals. And I think you are justifiably concerned that there's people whose names are going to get dragged into the mud here when they really didn't do anything wrong. I think those are both fair concerns. And I think they're both dangers.
I would agree. Friends in Low Places writes, every couple of months I have to stand back and remember that a bunch of conspiracy theorists obsessed with pedophiles have spent the last 10 years hitching their ride to Donald Trump, one of the scummiest, griftiest grifters to have ever grifted. Anyone who was even semi-coherent in the 80s and 90s knew he was gross as fuck.
Yeah.
You're here.
Myth of the DOJ separation writes, going way back to the Lewinsky scandal, President Clinton may have been impeached for perjury and obstruction, yet no criminal charges were levied. In the W. Bush era, we saw enhanced interrogation, major decisions driven by Cheney, warrantless surveillance, and a war justified by faulty intelligence. Obama's era wasn't any cleaner. No prosecutions resulted from the 2008 financial crisis or from lies to Congress concerning the ATF's Operation Fast and Furious. Apparently, Benghazi didn't warrant indictments either. Not to be one of those but her emails types, but if you or I had destroyed 30,000 subpoenaed emails with BleachBit software and smashed government-issued BlackBerries, we'd probably be doing hard time. The pattern continues through the first Trump administration. Foreign payments to his business, firing Comey, trying to pull the DOJ into overturning an election. Biden got a pass for willfully retaining and disclosing classified materials, while Hunter was eventually charged with gun and tax-related crimes. It never would have happened without the laptop from hell. The DOJ's narrow investigatory scope and sweetheart deals speak volumes about POTUS's influences in that case. Oh, and don't forget about the White House's mystery cocaine baggie.
So this is an interesting email, but I did notice a pattern in it, which is that in every single one of those examples, you're talking about a lack of action. I think what really separates those examples for what's happening now with the Trump administration and Pam Bondi is that they are acting on Trump's political enemies. Like he arrested James Comey and Don Lemon and Letitia James. Like they're actively going after people. So I think you're correct. And I think it really does lead to this moment where we've had such a lack of accountability for horrendous crimes going back decades. But this is different, that the Justice Department is being directed and is acting on behalf. Like there's a difference between letting people go, passing people, and acting and going after them. This is the first time.
Like putting Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in jail?
They were in contempt of Congress. Like they committed a
normally
fucking crime.
The DOJ does not normally act on those referrals. They acted in this case.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. That's the thing. We need to be prosecuting crimes. And so I just think that right now we are seeing Donald Trump going after people who did not commit crimes and arresting them. Like Don Lemon did not commit a crime by being at a church and doing journalism. Letitia James, they had to clear her because no crime there. Like he's going after people on the slimmest of evidence of things that even like judges that are not participating in this are saying, we don't want to be a part of this. I do think this is different. I do think that there is less of a barrier with this DOJ and this president than what we've seen in the past. And like, I'm not saying that there's no influence ever in the past and this is 100% new, but I do think this is a different level of coordination than we've seen in those previous administrations. I just think that when you have a lack of accountability going back that far, this is where it leads. But yeah, I think this DOJ is compromised in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime.
I think in the email that we got, you could divide the sins that were extolled into categories of violating civil liberties versus prosecutorial independence. Which are different categories, right? So like, don't like that we were torturing people. Don't like getting warrants suspended. Very, very against all of that. The thing that I think you're talking about, Jen, is prosecutorial independence. The idea is that the DOJ operates independently from executive mandate. that the president appoints people and then they do their job, even if it takes them in a direction that the president doesn't like. Yeah. I don't know enough. I don't feel like I can really, it feels that way to me. I agree with you in terms of my feelings. But I don't know. I don't have enough of a grip on it to be able to really come down on it. I'll say that this is not my position, but when I talk to my Trump friends, their position is that this has been going on a long time. It's just that previous administrations were better at camouflaging it and saying the right things. And that now it's the mask has been removed and you're just saying business as usual up front. I hope that is not the case because I don't like what I'm seeing.
I very much believe it is the case. And I think that the Biden DOJ did prosecute their political enemies and Donald Trump chief among them. And now we can agree whether or not those are crimes. We can agree whether or not James Comey committed a crime. We can disagree on whether or not Letitia James lied on her mortgage form and whether or not that should be prosecuted. But there has been a line set of fairly flimsy cases that are brought forward that aren't normally brought forward that now need to be brought forward because there are political motivations. And I think that there absolutely are political motivations for the Trump stuff. But I also think that they were there for the Biden stuff. And I don't think that either justify each other, but I don't see the same. I see a pattern that has broken loose that is now doing what this escalations do, which is escalate.
Letitia James having problems with her banking paperwork and Donald Trump trying to steal an election are different levels. And let's also remember that the Biden DOJ didn't actually move forward in time to do anything about it. I think if he was being like witch hunted, Jack Smith would have moved a whole fuckload faster and like we might not be in this position. So if anything, I wish the Biden DOJ had went after them harder. I don't think that those can be compared. I think that they were looking for something for Letitia James because he hated her. It wasn't because there was a big crime like trying to steal an election.
Like
there
charge
is a
stacking
difference.
For the fucking Stormy Daniels payment? Come on.
Yeah, no, but that wasn't the DOJ. That was New York.
That was New York, but they detached DOJ people to go to the New York office. Like there's, I don't know. I believe now, if there is a hallmark to these political motivated prosecutions, it's that you apparently don't get competence along with some of the more aggressive plays. And so I agree that Jack Smith fucked that up. He also fucked up the John Edwards case that he tried to bring, which was a lot more slam dunk back in the day. So there's enough to say that he's just not a fucking good person at his job. That being said, I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion, and we can agree to disagree. But I think that this is a continued escalation that has been going on for a while.
I had on Paul Townsend to talk about the presidential immunity decision that came out of the Supreme Court 2 years ago. I don't remember the nitty gritty of the decision. When I read it, I would have been in the minority at the time and voted against it. But what Paul pointed out, that I thought was insightful, and I now agree with, is that the reason that Roberts wanted to write that decision and the framework that he used for presidential immunity is because he accurately foresaw an era where we engage in greater levels of lawfare, and there's a constant judicial prosecutorial attack on whoever the former president is. That there has to be like some framework that we're able to be able to work with that end, to kind of try to squeeze it in a legal codified direction rather than just kind of Wild West. We've got the guns now, we can go after the last guy, which does seem to be kind of the direction we're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can agree on that like there's been a slippery slope of eroding that firewall between the DOJ and the executive branch. And like, there's just been an erosion of norms in general that brought us to where we are. None of it's good.
Women rights. We should really add another category to this Epstein thing. Those who are not in the document. Take Charlie Sheen. He was just doing hookers and blow by himself like a real gentleman.
It's true.
I haven't actually looked to see if I'm in it. I assume I'm not in it. But hold on, let's just put in Heaton real quick. Maybe Patricia, my cousin, I assume, did something. Oh,
she's not your cousin.
Well, I mean, there's not that many Heatons. I bet we're somehow related. I don't know. She'd probably own me. She seems like a nice lady.
My dad had a crush on her. He would be so excited if you were family.
Data set 11. Manelik Talbert and Andrew Heaton appear. Okay. Well, looks like I've got my afternoon covered. All right. Gonna have to go through this. See what this is about. Fuck.
Is this real?
All right. Yeah. I assume it's not me. I assume that there's I know that there are a few other Andrew Heatons. There's one guy in Ohio. I know this because his mom emails me by mistake every few years. And then I email her back and go, you're thinking of your son, Andrew Heaton in Ohio. I'm Andrew Heaton from Oklahoma. And she's very nice. And she'll say oh, you're basically my son too. If you're ever in Ohio, come over and we'll feed you. Because Heatons are lovely people. So I'm assuming.
Now you can tell her that her kid's in the Epstein files. That'll be a fun email.
There was some guy named Andrew Heaton ran for Congress in Colorado or something. I don't know. Maybe it's that guy. I don't know. I doubt it's me. I don't think I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. I think I'd remember.
I have a friend of mine, Rebecca Watson, who is known in certain circles in the skeptic and atheist world. She used to run a site, still runs a site, I think, called skepchick.com. She is in the Epstein files because she had pissed off people that were talking to Jeffrey Epstein about her. So she because Epstein was so tied to certain people in the worlds of science and stuff like that, she had gotten into big fights with them, and so she's in there. So I don't know. Ben Dreyfuss also is in there, and he said he's gonna make a shirt saying I'm in the Epstein files in large font, and then in smaller font below just for my jokes. And so I feel like I need to get that for my friend Rebecca.
Shit, there's flight logs here. 2 individuals needing to fly are Manelik Talbert, birth date redacted, and Andrew Heaton, birth date redacted. They need to depart STT on 3/29 and are heading to Miami. Not me, but all right. Well,
it's a good thing that
do the seats on Epstein's plane go all the way back? Can you sleep on them or get a massage? Tell us everything, Andrew.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you've spent the last 10 years making jokes about how you were on the Epstein Island.
Fuck. Fuck. Who could have thought my hubris would wind me in this? Oh, no.
Finally, better to be a kind liar was their second topic last week. Disinfo Doug writes, the lie to them, not to me study parallels every disinformation study. People who are most worried about disinformation online are never worried that they'll be fooled. It's just the other people.
That checks out. I think that's right. It's not me. I think you were saying that, weren't you, Justin? When it comes to lying, it's no, I can handle it because I'm a cogent adult, but it's the other weak-willed people that can't handle the criticism.
No, what I want is the real, Arlie Ermy drill sergeant. I need the hard truth. I need it mainlined right into my eyeballs. But my weak-willed, soft-tissued friend, oh no, that. They need to be coddled. They need to be lied to. It's my least favorite thing. I hate managed truth. That argument that some people are dumb or they need to be lied to and shit like that. That is one of the things that has driven me away from certain ideologies, is the concept that we should all agree certain things. You don't need to shape every fucking thing. It's a very word-selly
that's my big problem with Fauci, is that Fauci, on the record, would say we need to get X amount of people vaccinated in order to get immunity threshold reached. And then somebody called him, they're but last week you said it was 10% lower than that. And then he kind of smiled and he's yeah, but if I tell everybody higher, more people will get vaccinated.
Yeah. He's I was just funning. It was just the thing that I like to say. I just made it up. It's aren't you the number one fucking thing that everybody trusts for health? Yeah, isn't it wild?
Or I've not read the book, but there's a book called Unsettled by a Obama era administrator who is an environmental scientist. And there's video footage of him going to one of these conferences talking about hey, the data that we were looking at wasn't nearly as bad as the reports that you were issuing. And the people were well, none of us lied about that, but we wanted to put, forward a more exacerbatory message in order to get people motivated. And he's that Like, you can't do that. That sows discord. That sows distrust. And like in any kind of situation where experts lie to people in order to try to move them in the right direction, you undermine the legitimacy of the institution that they're in.
Yeah. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, we have a conversation with Tom Merritt that is already out now by the time that you hear this, about where AI issues will land politically, both in the midterms and in the general. We're probably going to have a lot of conversations like this going forward, but I just wanted one early to just get us on the record of like what we thought was going to be ways that this technology would affect things politically and what we don't think is going to be there, just so we can go back and consult it. So I very much believe it's going to be a huge part of politics going forward. I don't know where it's going to go and who's going to take advantage of it, but listen to that. And then if you want more on the world, the tumultuous world of UK politics and Keir Starmer, a lot more on the Epstein stuff over there is way more politically explosive than it is over here, because Peter Mandelson.
They're yanking lords.
Yeah, the stuff that Peter Mandelson is in for isn't even the partying.
He's
or
a
the sex
gay
stuff.
man that didn't diddle anybody, but he
was like passing along secrets that were given to him by the Americans to Jeffrey Epstein, and then telling the head of JP Morgan to threaten ministers within the British government. Like, there's a lot of stuff there, and it's part of the reason why Labor is in trouble right now. So listen to Friday's episode for that.
If we can find out a way to make the halftime Super Bowl political, we will absolutely find out a way to make AI political. That is coming.
Oh, it's already here. It's already here. The question is exactly who takes advantage of it, and I don't think that there's a clear lane for that. Jen, we're now Congressional Dish. Too many fucking shows. Congressional Dish. What's sizzling?
So the latest episode is still the one about the bills that became law in December, including the defense authorization. That's worth a listen. You already know that. And so what I want to recommend you do, because this is making me absolutely bonkers. We have a lot of people, U.S. citizens, non-citizens, being locked up right now for as long as ICE wants to keep them. We have people that have been in prison for months, and people that came here legally, have their paperwork in order. And there's a lot of questions as to like, how is this possible? How is this happening? And I can tell you exactly how it's happening. It is the one big, beautiful bill. My audience has, with their dollars, they do the most valuable episodes list that we have on Congressional Dish. Real quick, we have an executive producer system. So every time you donate $535, you get to put a credit on an episode, and it moves that episode up. The One Big Beautiful Bill episode, I have two of them. This is the one labeled A Dangerous Law, is now our #1 most valuable episode. And that's the one that explains to you what was in the Big Beautiful Bill that is allowing people to be locked up for this long. So I don't understand why more people are not aware of that provision or that section of the Big Beautiful Bill, but I would love for this audience to listen to that and to tell anyone who needs to hear it, especially in Congress and in media, that there's some problems in the Big Beautiful Bill that need to be repealed that are leading to human beings being locked up essentially indefinitely, even if they came here legally. So please go listen to that.
Heaton, who's stumbling into the orphanage this week?
You all know Austin Flake, stalwart member of We're Not Wrong, who's come to several of our live shows. Good guy, good fellow.
I like him.
I interviewed his dad, Jeff Flake, and I found out he's a former senator. So we have, I love Jeff Flake, by the way. And this is the closest I've ever come to converting to Mormonism, was talking to Jeff Flake. I was like, maybe he's onto something. He's a good dude. I like him a lot. We talk about his career, but also I specifically wanted to talk to him about, you're one of the exiled Republicans that I like. What do you think happens to the post-Trump Republican Party? What does it look like when Trump leaves from one of the guys that had to leave? So that's on the political orphanage. The
Republican Party ran Jeff Flake out of town because he did not do the monster mash with the sufficient enthusiasm that the graveyard smash demanded, according to MAGA. But I think they thought that there were plenty of Republicans that would come out of Arizona for the Senate. They're sitting on 2 blue seats, and they have been blue since John McCain and Jeff Flake left. So as they're going to spend a ton of money to keep Susan Collins in Maine, as Lisa Murkowski is going to eventually run for Senate in Alaska again, and they've got to do it in a way that is distance from Trump, you have to wonder whether the zeal of the MAGA folks, especially in Arizona, that ran those, John McCain died, but they would have run him out with more enthusiasm than they did Flake had he had lived. Whether that was wise, because guess what you guys got? You got 2 Democratic senators there and in Georgia in a way that you probably fucking shouldn't, because those states are, Arizona specifically right now is not a blue state. And yet you have a blue governor, you got two blue senators. That shows electoral incompetence in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't have to wonder on that. We do talk about Arizona specifically. So something that gave me a bright spot, and I'll add, like, it's an extremely optimistic interview. Like, I'm a fairly optimistic guy. Jeff Flake is more optimistic than I am, and he got ran out of the Senate, which I take some heart in. And he talks about Arizona specifically, and to your point, Justin, he's like, Arizona's a red state. Like, when you're just like, if you're running for like mine inspector, which is one of the jobs they've got there, and you got a Republican by your name, you're going to win, unless you say a bunch of crazy shit. Like, if you're running as a crazy person that is like, Trump's very popular, I know, I'll also be a crazy shithead. That must be the
Carrie
thing
Lake.
that, people are. Yeah, exactly. Carrie Lake's a perfect example. Then, like, they vote Democrat, and it's like that. Like, it's theirs to lose. And fortunately, one of the things he takes is that once Trump exits, like, there's going to just for electoral reasons, there's going to be hopefully a drift in places like Arizona, where the Republican Party goes more saneward merely to stop the hemorrhaging.
Well, really, you don't need to even change elements of the policy stuff. Literally, you just need to get out of the primary saying, you want to know who I think are 3 great Americans? Barry Goldwater, John McCain, and Donald Trump. I think that those are 3 great Americans, and I want to be your senator from Arizona. Guess what? You probably don't even need to spend fucking $1 million in advertising. Now, the problem is you can't get out of the primary if you say that, because there's loonies who are like, no, John McCain's the devil. For which you would probably say, hey, John McCain got elected in this state fucking over and over and over again without much effort, and you didn't have to spend a whole lot of money. And for a lot of Republican principles that you could probably agree on throughout the rest of the country, there was a vote there and not an oppositional vote in the way that you have it for the Democrats. It is fucking insane. And you know, just so the Democrats can get it too, this is the same problem in Texas, where they can't get anybody out of the primary that even has a chance in the election. Jasmine Crockett, think whatever you will of her. She's probably going to win this primary, and she's going to do so.
You think?
Even if she doesn't, she's going to do so in a way that irradiates James Tallarico with black voters, because the current biggest thing in this primary is James Tallarico is a racist who said that Colin Allred is a mediocre black man. This is fucking poison for black Democratic Texas voters. So they are either going to vote for Jasmine Crockett or they're going to stay home for James Tallarico in the general. These are like these activist primaries that make people pledge allegiance to an extreme position and don't allow them to go to the center in contested states is a fucking recipe for disaster. If you want impotence, this is what you do. You make everything about these small battles on the primary side, and you don't think big picture.
Did he actually say that?
He says that he said to an influencer he was trying to speak plainly with, because she was mad that he had worked with James Carville, that he thought he was running against Colin Allred. Now he's running against Jasmine Crockett. My suspicion, so his official thing is that I was saying that Colin Allred was going to run a mediocre campaign, not that he was a mediocre black man. What I think happened is that he kind of Michael Scotted himself in speaking to a black female activist and thought he was more hip and probably was speaking a little too frank about things that he thought he was in a safe space on, and he was not in a safe space because that influencer very clearly went across the street, started supporting Jasmine Crockett, and set up this whole opposition thing, which included Colin Allred coming out and saying, don't come for me unless I send for you, and I'm not a mediocre black man. If you want to compliment a black woman, just compliment her, blah, 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 blah. Like, this was well done from the Jasmine Crockett side. If you're looking at the X's and O's of it, if you want to make James Tallarico really fucking unpopular with black voters. But
it just doesn't sound like him to me. I mean, I don't know. I've never heard him saying anything mean. He doesn't seem like, I could see him saying Colin Allred's a mediocre candidate because Colin Allred is a mediocre candidate. Hence why he keeps losing.
Well,
but
I mean, look, I didn't think Colin Allred ran a great campaign. I don't know what fucking campaign Tallarico's running at all. He's got 2 ads out. One ad where it's a filmed cinematic version of him giving a speech in a bar, when it's like, why can't you just record him actually giving a speech in a bar? Why does it have to be the movie version of it? And then the second ad that he put out are people listening to his speech, his filmed speech at the bar on like radio and television and tablets. And they're like, oh yeah, amazing. I don't know why, just because he's religious, he has to have this persona like he's Jesus giving sermons, to the unwashed masses. So I don't know.
That's his
and then
vibe.
Jasmine Crockett's
He's like
running
the
fucking
Democrat
anime ads.
Yeah, I mean, that's Tallarico's whole thing though. Like, I'm the Democrat that's down with the Jesus. Like, he kind of has to, like,
but he's not doing
gag.
Jesus-y things. He's just like, and he's not even preaching. He just looks like he has a Jesus complex.
He does. Is that not true?
But is that a thing that people want? They want a guy who thinks he has because Raphael
Texas,
Warnock,
maybe.
Raphael Warnock, another man of the cloth, when he ran his campaign against, he didn't really have a primary, but when he ran against Herschel Walker, which was a tougher out than people want to think, no matter what you think about Herschel Walker because of the voter registration in Georgia, like, he ran as a likable guy. I'm a likable guy. Look at me. I'm not going to mention what party I'm in, but I'm very likable. Did I mention that I am in politics, but who knows what party I'm with? I'm just very likable. I like the things that you like. What a likable trait of mine. Like, that was him. And he won. It was very well done. I just don't think Tallarico is a particularly good candidate, and I don't think he's running a particularly good campaign. Jasmine Crockett's campaign is fucking insane and is like recklessly aggressive, but at least I understand it's like it matches who she is. She's kind of insane and she's recklessly aggressive.
That's Jasmine for you. I'm so excited to get to vote in this one. It's going to be fun.
All right. That's it for us. Until next time, for Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young, telling you that we're not wrong. That guy's bitch ex-girlfriend is.
Oh, it's not her fault. Justin's wrong.
Dog and Pony Show audio.